Hey everyone, I'm so excited to have you join us today. If you enjoy, you're in the right place. Before we dive into today's video, if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss out on our future content. We're building an awesome community here, and I'd love for you to be a part of it. Ryu spoke with clear pronunciation. I am a prophet who can see the future. Silence fell upon the room for a moment. What did I just hear? A prophet? Is this kind spouting nonsense? Ryu, who could read thoughts, was allowed to remind silence. Ma regained his composure and barely opened his mouth. Are you being serious? What would I lie to you? Then the fact that you won the lottery was because you looked into the future using your future sight rune. Ryu replied, That's right. It's also the reason why I invested in the Bitcoin to increase my wealth. Thanks to the certainty of being able to look into the future, I was able to invest all my money into it. In truth, he discovered the future through dozens of regression. Whether it's his or that, it's essentially the same when it comes to knowing the future. That's why it was a complete lie. Ma said, If it's not problem, could you prove it to me? If you could just predict what I would do in a few moments. Ryu said silently, Since I can't read his thoughts, guessing his next action isn't it a problem at all. However, just in case, it would be good to establish restriction to my ability now. Then Ryu said, My apologizes, but it's not an ability I can use the freely .ite activated at unexpected times without my input. Ma thoughts, Well, it's understandable for Rune that can look into the future to have such a restriction. While Ma was lost in such thoughts, a sudden idea crossed his mind. Mr. Ryu, done the fact that you invested 280 billion won into our company. Ryu replied, Yes, I knew that Heavenly Daemon Consulting would grow exponentially in the future, so I invested in it. How much would that exponential growth be? You'll be listed on KOSP within half a year without a problem. A surprised expression flickered across Ma's face and said, How great would it be if that came true? Including being recognized by my father, I will be able to obtain the position of chairman. It seems I got overexcited. Laughing and smiling at a piece of information I can't even verify to be true. Ryu said, However, for you to succeed, you need to completely change your business model. Sang Cheol's voice grew louder. That is an unreasonable request. Are you telling us to change our business at this point? It's like you'd rather tell us to change the company name. Ma tried to interrupt, but their thoughts were not much different. Ryu spoke in a calm voice. Since the type of business was change, the name will naturally have to change as well. What? Are you being serious? Ryu replied, Do you think I'm joking at this point? Since the two of you are players, you should know this as well. It's a massive lose-a penalty to reveal one's rune to others. I took that into account and still decided to reveal my rune to you as a major shareholder and as a business partner who will work together in the future, because I wish to help the company grow. If not, for what reason would I have invested 280 billion here? For the company to succeed, you need to walk with me. Sang Cheol said, Mr. President, you're not trusting his words, are you? Ryu let out a small sigh at Sang Cheol's remark and said, It seems you don't trust my ability. Honestly, no. Words alone weren't enough to convince them. Section Chief Ann, have you ever wondered why I moved into the apartment below that penthouse? You're not thinking it was sheer coincidence, are you? Ma looked at Sang Cheol as if demanding an explanation. Section Chief Ann? What does he mean? Below you in an apartment? Mr. Presidents, it's just about 2 months ago, Ryu moved into the floor below actress Arin penthouse. Ryu confirmed it and said, Yes, it was a few days after I obtained the future Psy rune. Ma turned his head to Sang Cheol. Section Chief Ann, why am I learning about this now? I don't know it would matter until today either, Mr. Ma said silently. If that was in January, that would have been before they invested in Bitcoin. And yet, he moved into a neighbouring house to a person related to the company he'll invested in the future. That's impossible to do unless he can see into the future. No, he might just be someone who knows I am sponsoring Aaron. Even with Rio's persuasion, Ma didn't believe easily. As Rio anticipated, he took out the next card. It seems you still don't trust me. Then how about this? This hotel we're in, it's your propriety, President Ma, right? And your identity is the eldest son of the 08 Sung Group. Heavenly Demon Consulting is also a secret business created to receive validation from your father. Am I wrong? Ma's expression seemed to waver under the 3 consecutive revolutions, but he didn't easily succumb to them. Instead, Sang Cheol suddenly stood up, getting excited. You! Who sent you? For you to have information that isn't it no unless you're his relative. Ma said, Director Ann, please calm down. Sang Cheol sit back down, calming me his anger. In contrast, Ma's tone remained calm. Yes, everything you said is correct. However, it lacks persuasiveness to say that you learned all this through looking into the future. As Sang Cheol said, any one of my relatives could know this. To be honest, I suspect you of you being sent by a third party to make me fall into a trap. And your suggestion that I should trust you in this state and change my business. Rio listened finally without giving any response. You know the answer even if I don't spell it out, right? These all seems quite nonsensical. I also wish to believe that their future Psy rune exists. Who wouldn't want to believe so if it can be used to grow one's company? Whoever, what you're telling me, it's hard to believe, Mr. Rio. I thank you for investing in our company, but I need to open a meeting amongst stockholders and look over the proposal. It'll be your job to convince them, of course. I apologize that I won't be able to help you with this. Well then, I'll be going first. Is there anything else you wish to say? Rio said in himself. Is this really the only way now? Rio cautiously opened his mouth, having hesitated for a moment. Then how about this? I will give you information about round 4. Round 4. Both Ma and Sang Cheol widened their eyes. You also have information about round 4. Rio said, Yes, I saw it all using the future Psy rune. I know what tragedy occur. This information should be enough to prove my ability, no? After parting ways with Rio, Ma remained seated, deep in thought. Suddenly, Sang Cheol, who was seated next to him, lowered his head and expressed his remorse. I'm sorry, Mr. President. I got overtaken by my emotions and raised my voice back then. Ma reassured him. It's fine you did it because you were looking out for me. Then, since I just remembered it, could I tell you one more thing? Talk freely and say what you want. I am honestly very suspicious of Mr. Rio. To be able to see the future, if he had such an ability, he could have just stayed quiet and lived well by himself. Why is he trying to help us? Didn't he say he wanted to grow with our company? Looks like he wants to earn more money. Would there be a reason for him to do that? If he has 280 billion won, then that's already an incredible amount of money he could use to relax and not have to work his enter life. It might not be enough for him. Human greed is unending. Even so, it's too dangerous. It's also still a question if such an incredible rune exists or not. I also agree with that. But if he really is a prophet who can see into the future, we need to get him on our side. Think about it. Just how helpful would that be if we always had information about the next round and could prepare for it? It's also be a boon if the company grows in the process as well. Sang Cheol said, but whether he is true a prophet or not. Ma said, about that we'll just have to wait and see, no? As Rio made his way back home, his steps were light, buoyed by the success of his plan. After round 4 ends, he'll be certain that I'm prophet. I didn't tell him important information like the sub-quest or the ways to get into the rankings through. That much should be enough to prove that I'm prophet. After that, their attitude towards me will change as well. They'll treat me well and try to protect me since I am a prophet. It's always better to have the prophet on your side than on someone else's. Since I've taken this role as prophet now, should I just roll with it into the future? Then first, let's contact. Juri's hearts raced as she made her way to the agreed meeting spot. As she approached the convenience store, her eyes caught sight of sleek sports car parked out front. She said, "What's the deal with that car? It's blocking the storefront. What kind of nonsensical person?" To her surprise, the careless person turned out to be none other than Ryo himself. Juri felt a wave of confusion as she caught sight of Ryo sticking his head out of the car window. Juri said, "Is this your car?" Ryo said, "Yeah, sorry for parking in front of the store. Get in. Let's go on a drive while we talk." Juri hopped into the Lamborghini and she said, "This is my first time riding a car like this." Ryo replied, "Is it? Me too, I just got it, you see. How much does a car like this cost? 900 million? Not much around $900 million. Juri said, 900 million? Do you know how many convenience store I could open up with 900 million? Ryo replied, "Compared to the money I earned from Noto, it's not much." Juri said silently, "That's right, Ryo is a rich guy with a whopping 60 billion. I feel like we live in different worlds." An awkward silence enveloped them, and Juri could hear the sound of her own heart pounding, and she said, "By the way, this definitely feels like a date. I'm kind of feeling shy." She blushed even more at the thought. Ryo said, "Honestly, there's something I need to confess to you." Startled, Juri's head snapped towards Ryo at the mention of a confession. Then Ryo said, "It's nothing weird, so don't misunderstand." "Misunderstand?" Juri replied, "No way. Me? So what's your confession?" Juri turned her head away from the window, hoping to hide her embarrassment. Juri said, "So what kind of confession is it?" Ryo said, "I told you that the Noto lottery numbers showed up in my dream before, right? That's actually not true. In reality, I got that information from the Rune of Future, not from a dream. The Rune of Future is a rune that shows me the future. That's why I got the Deer class." Ryo smoothly revealed to Juri that he was a prophet. Though he made it up, it held a grain of truth. After all, he did possess knowledge of the future. Juri blinked her eyes, resembling a curious rabbit. With an expression of pure admiration, Juri couldn't help but applaud and said, "That's so cool, isn't that the totally unique class? That's great, the Rune of Future sounds amazing too. Thanks for telling me the truth. I mean, it must have been hard to reveal that, even to a friend." Ryo said, "Come on, you told me you were a supporter too, so it's only fair." Juri replied, "Fair? As if. I didn't tell you my rune. Since we're on the topic, should I tell you about my rune? During the first round, I got the Rune of Production. As many thin protective barriers envelop me to much the number of people with a 10 meters radius of me, in the sense that if there's 5 people, I'm covered in 5 protective barriers." She said too, "But why did you suddenly tell me about the rune?" Ryo said, "Keeping it a secret kinda bothered me. Also, I feel like you wouldn't believe what I'm about to tell you now if I didn't confess the truth to you." Unaware that Ryo already knew the information, Juri enthusiastically shared the details about round 4. Then Juri said, "What? That's the round 4 cues." Ryo said, "Yeah, so be careful, Juri. Always be alert since there's no telling what the players around you might do." Juri nodded, a faint smile suddenly gracing her face. And she said silently, "Even so, I'm thankful he told me this out of concern for me. He isn't called me first. Does he maybe have the slightest feeling for me?" "I hope he does." Ryo entered his room and changed his clothes. Ryo said, "I can't believe Juri like me all the time. I didn't know what all. No wonder she wanted to be so nice to me. Though it's kind of flustering, it might just be for the better. I'll be easier to make her an ally as well. She'll believe my prophecies more easily as well. That's one concern of my mind, so let's get some rest since I don't have much to do this month anyway. He discovered the truth through the rune of inner thoughts. 5 minutes remained until midnight on April 1st. It was a council day that required entry into the otherworld. Ryo, in the safety of his room, meticulously inspected his items and patiently waited. Shadow of Darkness glove. Rank: Epic. Description: gloves that are covered in darkness and can't be seen in the night. Weapons you hold also become translucent. Ryo said, "The stats are good, and the translucent weapon effect is a usable as well. I'll be effective when used in conjunction with Night of Death." Suddenly, a knock on the door interrupted his thoughts as his younger brother entered the room, and he said, "It's time, brother. Are you confident that you will clear it this time as well?" Ryo replied, "I'll know when I get there." His brother wore a worried expression on his face. "You're a prophet, brother. You said you knew a few stuff about round 4. Ryo said, "Knowing it and doing it are two different things. You need to survive no matter what." Ryo told his brother not to worry, although the 4th round is known as the Round of Death. Ryumin, once again summoned to the otherworld, opened his status window. A penalty is in effect. All your stats are permanently decreased by 50%. And he said, "Damn it! This is what I get from betraying Jungsik, who was like a role model to me. I don't even have the 10 authority of commands, so how do I clear round? The ones who are crazy about getting the region representative role might come for me, or my friends could come and take revenge. But above all, where is this place? A white expanse with no horizon in sight. It was stark contrast to the blue meadows and forest they had been summoned to so far. What quest could we start in a random-ass place like this? Everything was drenched in white, giving him the feeling of being a rat in laboratory. Ryumin's eyes momentarily narrowed as he scanned the surrounding with a tense expression. Black Scythe! That devilish bastard! He definitely knew I would end up like this. He destroyed the Relax by using all the players, and it's suspicious how he killed the proxy of divine retribution without his hesitation. If I have that strength, I would have pummeled this bastard's face right here and now. This is pissing me off, but there's nothing I can do. I need to play within the devil head if I want to survive. With that thought in mind, Ryumin approached the Black Scythe. "Excuse me, Mr. Black Scythe. What is it? The contract from the previous round is still in effect, right?" "Contract? In exchange from becoming your subordinate, you said you'd protect me." A faint smirk appeared on Black Scythe's lips. "I don't subordinate need like you anymore. You don't have the authority of command anymore. What's the point of a region representative who has no authority? Also, most of the players have successfully finished their advancement. Even if you did have it, it's useless. You are no longer useful to me. You're just a walking target." Black Scythe's voice rang out with an ice chill. お前はもう